and welcome to Spectrum News at 12. I am Rachel David White, coming to you live from the beautiful hills of Biafran. Let's take a look at the headlines. Federal government disburses 173 billion naira for uniform fuel price nationwide. CJN warns against undermining rule of law. Plus, Philippine top court voids old South China Sea Energy deal. We'll bring you details of the stories and more in a moment. We begin this afternoon from the petroleum sector, where the federal government has disbursed about 173.2 billion naira for the equalization of over 11.6 billion liters of premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol. This is according to data obtained from the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources, FMPR. Reports say PMS price equalization is done by the federal government through the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA, which ensures price uniformity of petroleum products via the reimbursement of marketers for trucking products to filling stations anywhere in Nigeria. However, despite the billions spent on PMS price equalization, the cost of the commodity has hardly been equal. Passport has fallen by 38 places in our global passport ranking in the last 17 years. This is according to collated data by the Henley Passport Index reports between 2006 and 2022. Although the Nigerian passport gained 11 more destinations, it fell from 62nd in 2006 to 100th in 2022. This shows a steady decline in strength amongst 199. Away from that, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has said the presidency of Nigeria is not a retirement loan, insisting that the country needs a stingy leader at the moment. Obi also said he owed no one any apologies for being stingy, noting that he is the youngest, the fittest, and the most qualified candidate to be president among the four leading contestants. He said these at the All Saints Cathedral Field, Onitsha, Anambra State, before a crowd of supporters as part of his nationwide campaign. Before coming to Onitsha, the Labour Party candidate had earlier met with Anambra traditional rulers and other stakeholders at the government house in Oka. He said the presidency is about capacity. Justice Monica Mensem has tasked election tribunal officers numbering 350 to leave above board during their service in the forthcoming elections. She cautioned that if any of them compromised the system, they would not only be relieved of their service, but would be prosecuted in line with recommendations by the Federal Judicial Service Commission. The PCA gave the warning in Abuja at a two-day capacity building workshop for those who would serve as officials of the election tribunals, stressing the importance of functional registries to the effectiveness of election tribunals. The PCA stated that the training was aimed at preparing the officers for the task ahead.
First, the secretaries come from the Court of Appeal so that you know that you are on an assignment and you're being closely watched by your parent organization, which is the Court of Appeal. So there is no room for adventurers with adventures. Fill yourself with information in these documents so that no one will come and confuse you in the registry. When they come, when you educate yourself and you equip yourself with proper information with good information, and in this process there are information that are supported by law, so you don't allow anybody to mislead you.
You are indeed ambassadors to the Court of Appeal, and you owe a duty to the court to put up your best foot forward at all times. It is of utmost importance, therefore, that you pay close attention to the enabling laws.
On matters regarding the rule of law, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Olukayode Ariwola, has warned politicians and the public not to disregard the rule of law. Ariwola stated these at the Conference of Attorneys General held in Abuja, noting that the silence of the judiciary must not be taken for weakness or vulnerability. He stated that the earlier judicial officers and the court were respected, the better for all Nigerians. This was as he charged stakeholders in the justice sector to ensure fairness, equity, and the prevalence of the rule of law. Away from that, the World Bank has projected a downturn in economic forecast due to a perilous fall into recession. The report blames a number of factors stemming from Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the impact of the pandemic. The effect of higher interest rates have also been identified as a key challenge for policymakers in the overcoming the recess situation. Next, World Bank President David Malpass said that downturn would be broad-based and growth in people's earnings in almost every part of the world is likely to be slower than it was during the survival of Ogoni people. Mossab has accused the federal government of not being sincere with the implementation of the 1 billion naira hydrocarbon cleanup of Ogoni land in River State. The president of Mossab, Fagalo Nsuke, in a statement said the Ogoni people are now lacking confidence in the ongoing Ogoni cleanup project spelled out in the United Nations Environment Program report. The cleanup project is being carried out by the Hydrocarbon Pollution Remediation Project, HYPREP. Nsuke, in his message while marking the 30th anniversary of Ogoni Day, accused HYPREP of executing bogus contract and urged the agency to hold further contract awards pending the conclusion of the ongoing audits of the agency. He also called for a proper restructuring of the Nigerian Federation to guarantee the rights of the Ogoni people. Three have kicked against the establishment of the African Aviation and Aerospace University. Secretary General at the Aviation Roundtable in Abuja, Olumide Ohunayo, queried the establishment of the university, adding that the university should be investigated. Meanwhile, Minister of Aviation Hadi Sirika, in a press briefing in Abuja, announced that the Aviation University is expected to commence registration for the 2022-2023 academic cycle into field research development in the areas of aviation and aerospace. He also said that the Aviation University would be a Pan-African university, not limiting its intake of students from Africa. Back here, stakeholders in Akwa Ibom State have called on the state government and how. Speaking at a press conference, they expressed dissatisfaction with the National Water Resources Bill, which has been forwarded to the National Assembly for the third time. But noted that the reintroduced Water Resources Bill will only throw millions of people across the Niger Delta region and Nigeria at large into poverty as well as insecurity, therefore should not be accepted.
Territorial water in Nigeria. What that implies is that once that bill is implemented, our people who are fishing will not be able to have opportunity to enter water as they like. More or less, they have to get an approval or get themselves registered and be licensed before they could access their natural endowment, which is the sea. I want the whole country to stand up. Not to talk about.
Others at the event urged the government and National Assembly to liaise with other stakeholders across the South state and take a unified position on the issue in order to stop the passage of the bill and its impending crisis in the future. Recall that the National Water Resources Bill was first introduced as an executive bill in 2017 and was perceived as rural grazing area, RUGA, which led to the rejection. The proposed piece of legislation seeks to transfer the control of water resources from the state to the federal government. The bill was reintroduced in June 2020 the resources sector for the economic development of Nigeria and well-being of its citizens to ensure that the nation's interstate water resources are protected, used, and developed.
The bill would force many Niger Delta people whose main occupation is fishing into joblessness, deny the people access to their natural resource, and eventually turn them into slaves.
People of the Niger Delta, we have waters. In fact, our life is dependent on water. And therefore, if external bodies are there to control, to even manipulate, all our fishermen, all our farmers locally will have problems, because you can see that even doing other businesses, going to Abuja to obtain the permit has always been a problem.
Not just the water, but even the land. Now, I hope that our people, the government, will not be silent. I hope that our representatives in the National Assembly will not be silent. I hope that our representative paramount rulers, and indeed all the leaders, have spoken with one voice. The water resources bill must not fly, will not fly, and will not be honored by a coin of State if it is passed. That is our message.
In Africa, thousands of people have turned out in the Gambian capital for the official funeral of a pro. Mourners lined the street of Banjul as police passed by carrying a flag-draped coffin of Solo's Sending in a ceremony that revived memories of Jammeh's brutal rule. The dictator held sway over the tiny West African state for 22 years until he was defeated in presidential elections in December 2016 by political nuclear 57 after organizing a protest calling for the return of democracy.
That after 7 years, we're here respecting the legacy of Solo Sending without the electoral reforms he died for. Are you happy? Are you happy? Are you happy?
No, no.
Are you happy that Solo Sending and his colleagues, their sacrifices is actually seen as any other ordinary, because there is no...
He inspired the masses to expressly desire and vote for change and freedom. Solo's legacy has inspired us in our current security sector reforms and the transitional justice process as a whole.
Meanwhile, Brazil's President Lula da Silva has joined a growing chorus of accusations against the country's security forces as questions mounted on how protesters were able to breach government buildings to wreak havoc. Protesters supporting the far-right former military to intervene and oust the lefties hero Lula da Silva, who returned to power after a 12-year hiatus, following a slam runoff victory over Bolsonaro. Footage shared of an attack appeared to show forces standing by and watching protesters march into government buildings. With Chinese and Vietnamese firms illegal, ruling that the Constitution does not allow foreign entities to exploit local natural resources. It established the rule because the Constitution emphasizes Philippines' state control and supervision activities over its natural resources. Recall that Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos, in line with his visit to China, said his country must find a way to exploit its untapped energy reserves in its exclusive economic zone without China's expertise. Still on the foreign scene, Cardinal George Pell, whose alleged conviction on child abuse charges shocked the Catholic Church before he was being quashed, has died at 81. The former Vatican treasurer is Australia's highest-ranking Catholic cleric and the most senior church. Served as Archbishop of both Melbourne and Sydney before becoming one of the Pope's top aides. Cardinal Pell, who always maintained his innocence, spent 13 months in prison before the High Court of Australia. While still to come in the news, former Super Falcons coach advises Waldrum to introduce new players. Stay with us.
Every day, we bring you up-to-date information on topical issues affecting the common Nigerian, from issues on politics,
Hello, Nigeria. I remain committed.
security, education, health, and on Rise and Shine Daily, exclusive on Spectrum Television.
Thanks for staying tuned. On our business news, African air cargo volume declined at a slower pace of 6.3% in November compared to 8.3% recorded in the previous month. This is according to the International Air Transport Association's report for November 2022. The report also attributed the decline to shrinking export orders globally, which made air cargo demand soften with uncertainties, which reflected stable demand on a month-to-month basis. Meanwhile, Aviation Secretary General Olumide Ohunayo has urged the domestic airlines under the umbrella of the Airline Operators of Nigeria to release check-in counters to other airlines for use during their downtime. Still on business, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, LCCI, has said that economic conditions across regional blocks show that a recession or a significant slowdown of growth in 2023 is likely to occur, owing to spiraling inflation, high energy costs, monetary policy tightening, and weakening consumer demand. The president of LCCI, Michael Olawale Kole, stated this during the Chamber's quarterly State of the Economy press conference, which held in Lagos. According to them, given the numerous challenges confronting the Nigerian economy, the Chamber's prediction remains a hard landing, which in economic terms point towards a period of economic downturn. Oluwale Kole said that with recent projections from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, that one-third of the world economy would be in recession. Nigeria, though not on the list, might also experience a recession. Agitators discloses in Abuja at the Federal Ministry of Health ministerial press briefing on COVID-19 and other development in the health sector. Dr. Agitators said there are 8,202 suspected cases and 1,067 confirmed cases across 27 states, including 112 local government areas. Integral part of Napoli's early season run, which has placed them at the top of the Serie A table with only one domestic loss in the campaign. The 23-year-old has been unstoppable and is also the current top scorer and scorer in the Italian league, according to Aurelio De Laurentiis. The Napoli president now values Osimhen at £140 million. Several top European clubs have been alerted on this development. This is the second time Napoli has increased his valuation. And sports, former Super Falcons coach Godwin Ezelian has advised coach Randy Waldrum to introduce fresh players into the squad ahead of the FIFA Women's World Cup. The FIFA Women's World Cup is expected to be co-hosted by Australia and New Zealand from July 20th to August 2013. She said further that the coach should build the team around young players. Former Super Falcons coach Godwin also advised the Nigeria Football Federation to organize high-quality friendlies for the girls to prepare them for the World Cup. On our entertainment news, Kunle Afolayan's Anikulapo is now officially the most watched movie of 2022 on Netflix in Nigeria. This is according to the streaming statistics site Flix Patrol. The 2022 Nigerian epic fantasy film surpassed huge international projects like RRR and Adam Project to secure the top spot, a huge feat considering both movies were released in March while the Nigerian movie came out towards the end of the year. The epic film follows a young man's quest for greener pastures. Bimbo Ademoye, Shola Shobowale, Hakeem Kaye Kazim, and Taiwo Hassan. Still on entertainment, Netflix has released the official trailer for the South African crime fantasy series season set to debut later this month. The storyline reflects the loss of the king of Joburg, Simon Masira, the family adaptation to a new king and new enemies in the City of Gold. Produced by Ferguson Films and Samar Davis Production, the show stars the late filmmaker and actor Shona Ferguson, including Kings of Joburg, premieres on Netflix on January 27, 2023. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. Good afternoon.